Hey, welcome to another episode of the Philosophy Podcast. I am your host, Controversy, and to my right, ladies and gentlemen, my co-host, none other than Mr.
Darren Love.
And together, we are the Philosophy Podcast. Thank you to you guys for tuning in to a brand new episode. Thank you for tuning in once again this week, guys. And like we always say, if you're new to the show and you do like the content, please like, comment and subscribe, because that will help our channel tremendously. And yeah, without further ado, what is on the agenda for this week, mate? What is today's
hot topic?
That's it.
I thought we were talking about management today.
So this week, we're talking all about
management.
That's it. What are your thoughts and your opinions, mate, and on management?
I think we've all got to be managers, haven't we, really? Managing yourself, basically, I think, yeah. I think everyone's got to manage themselves.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Full stop,
Yeah.
And that's I think it's a difficult thing to learn, really.
It's a daily task, isn't it? Daily tasks, plural, It's an ongoing thing, isn't it? Management of oneself and everything else in your life. You've got to manage your life, haven't you? There's so many different fractions, let's say. It's a good way to put it, I guess. Different fractions of your life that are divided up into, how you spend your time. Let's say, for example, when it comes to time management, it's like you might spend X amount of hours a week at work, X amount of hours at home with your wife and kids, X amount of hours out with your boys, or doing something productive, or playing football, or who knows what, or seeing other family members, from whatever extended side of the family. So it's we're always managing something within our lives, and in particular, generally most of the time it is time. Because in this day and age, especially where people are so busy and people work lots of hours every week, or some people have multiple jobs, or whatever the case may be, it's a very busy lifestyle that most of us live and lead today. So I think time management is one of the biggest things and one of the most important things. You've got to realise what's important in your life and learn to prioritise as best as possible. That obviously your family and your wife and kids obviously are more important than your job. But at the same time, you've got to work, you've got to provide, you've got to pay the bills, pay your rent, your mortgage, or whatever situation it is that you're in. So you still have to provide, so you still got to give a certain portion of your time towards your occupation, or towards whether you be self-employed or employed. You still got to dedicate a certain portion of your time towards work of some kind to generate income. That's just a reality of life for everyone. So yeah, it's just about managing your time, managing your finances.
Some people have got a family to manage, like you have.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have, but I haven't anymore. Do you know what I mean? All I've got to do is manage myself, because I live on my own. So it's quite simple, really. It's not easier than it used to be for me.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder life, I think, when you've got responsibilities for other children or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, the young child doesn't really manage themselves at all, do they? It's what you've got to teach them, really, haven't you?
Well, you're slowly teaching them to become independent, aren't you?
And a manager, really.
And a manager, yeah. And a good manager.
Even keeping yourself clean.
Yeah, very important.
Day,
very important.
Is good management, really.
Yeah.
Of yourself, And I think it's really important to keep good management of yourself, really,
Yeah. You've got to look after yourself. It's very important, You can't look after other people and look after everything you've got going on in your life. All the responsibilities or whatever it is that you've got to handle in life. You need to be in the best. You need to be in the best physical, mental, etc. shape. You know what I mean, to be able to look after those around you. So that comes with you've got to look after yourself first. If you're not looking after yourself and you get run down and you get ill whatever the case else may be, you know, who's going to look after, you know, who's going to handle your responsibilities? No one, you know. So you've got to look after yourself.
I mean, what makes a good manager really, I think, is somebody that knows how to manage themselves and manage other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
You know, some people don't know how to do that, do they? They don't know how to manage other people. They might know to manage themselves, but they don't know to manage other people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and sometimes I think it's the other way around.
Yeah, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Right.
You know, so.
And there's even grown people out there today, mate. There's even grown adults out there today that need management themselves. I'm not just talking about from themselves. I'm talking about there's people out there today as grown people. They need management from their significant other, their husband or their wife or whatever the case may be, to keep them in check and keep them.
Sometimes I feel that.
Some people need that, if you see what I mean. Like me personally, I can manage myself 100%, and anything that my wife brings to the table or adds to our situation, then it's great, if you see what I mean. That's just added on to what you know, to me already managing what I've got going on, if you see what I mean. And if she in any way helps in any way, shape or form, and or is beneficial or productive to what I've got going on, then that's great. But there are some people out there that not only need to manage themselves, but need someone else to kind of usher them in the right kind of direction. You know, they can't really, you know, they can, but they need a bit of guidance, you know what I mean, a bit of direction, you know, to stay on the right track and be focused on the right shit and you know, able to achieve things, you know. It's, you know, so
I mean, a lot of people don't like being told what to do, do they? Do you know what I mean? They don't. A lot of people don't really like their managers, do they? They're always sort of like hiding, or they say, "Oh, he's coming, quick, let's get to work." You know, do you know what I mean? You know, it's a bit, you know.
yeah.
So I mean, a good manager is different. You know, if you've got a good manager that knows how to manage people and keep people happy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what a good manager's got to do.
I was going to say
people happy.
In regards to what you just said, though, I was just going to say that there's a big difference between. There's some people out there that have got problems with authority. If you see what I mean, issues and problems with authority, based on previous traumatic experiences or whatever the case may be. And sometimes that is a problem too, because at the end of the day, right, everyone's got a boss. If you see what I mean, the manager that's managing you at work or the, you know, or whatever, they have a boss. They've got someone to answer to. Even the person, even where I work, yeah, say for example, the CEO of where I work, he has people to answer to. He's got a board of directors in which he has to answer to. And these directors come at least twice a month to where I work to have meetings with the people that the real, you know, the head, you know, the CEO and CFO and that kind of thing, you know. But they've got bosses too. So I think in life, yes, it is good to be completely self-sufficient and independent and manage yourself 100% if you can, and manage your career and your being an entrepreneur and all that type of shit. But not everyone can do that, and that life's not cut out for everyone. So the reality of life is, the reason there is a structure of society is because that is just the way human nature kind of works generally anyway, if you see what I mean. It's kind of based around the way human beings work. And there are people that are always going to be needed or have to be employees. They're not going to be able to work for themselves or have their own business or whatever. They have to work for someone else or someone else's business, or they have a boss or whatever the case may be. That's just the reality of life, you know. And we need that as well. I think sometimes people forget this. All this talk today online, all these big like social media influencers and all these people talking about you have to be, you know, you become your own boss. Yes, that is important, and there are people out there that need to be motivated to do that, because there's lots of us that can become our own boss, that have the characteristics and the work ethic and the drive and everything else in order to do that. But some people are just not cut out to do that, and you have to remind these people that they are just equally as important in society, and not make them feel any less worthy for being an employee or working for someone else. Because we need every aspect of society. When you go to the supermarket, you need to be served by someone. When you go to a restaurant, you want to be served by someone. That's the whole purpose. That's what you're paying for. You're paying not only, let's say you go to a restaurant, you're not going to go to a restaurant and go in there and pour your own drinks and cook your own food and then plate it and put it down on the table and sit down there and eat.
That'd be a good idea.
Well, you just wouldn't know, if you see what I mean. You could do that at home. That's what you do at home. You cook your food at home, sit down and eat comfortably and enjoy your meal at home and do what you want. The whole purpose of going to a restaurant is so that you don't have to cook. You can sit down and relax, if you see what I mean, and have, you know, let's say you're with your family, you can have family quality time, if you see what I mean, and someone else's, you know, you're essentially paying for a service, not only for them to, you know, bring your water and your drinks and everything else, but obviously for someone to cook your food and everything else. That's why at the end of the day, when you finish, you pay your bill and you leave a nice tip if the service was good, if you see what I mean, you know, because you're paying for a service. But at the end of the day, like I said, not everyone can be a boss, you know, and every function of society is necessary. We need the nurses, we need the doctors, we need the we need the rubbish men, the recycling bin men, we need the pharmacists, we need the painters, we need, yeah, but we need in the structure of society that exists today, if you see what I mean, predominantly across in most places of the world today, we need people to work, you know?
Yeah, but I think like a lot of people work in a lot of jobs that's not really needed at all.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah?
Yeah.
Like for instance, acting. Well, we don't really need entertainment really.
No.
We don't need to survive, you know. You know, it makes life a better laugh. So we, you know, like, I think like people pay a lot of money, don't they?
Well, again, you're paying for a service.
A lot, you know, we're living in a world of sort of like pay for entertainment, go to the cinema, you know, or go and watch football, do you know what I mean? We pay a lot of money for entertainment, well, people do you know what I mean? Each year. You know, so.
But it's a luxury.
Yeah.
And you can do without it. You can
know,
survive without it. It's like people. Okay.
I think there's too many doctors today. Do you know what I mean? Like I said a long time ago, we used to be farmers, all right. But now we've evolved into millions of different jobs, basically. You know, some people even make tobacco.
Yeah.
But really, is that right? Do you know what I mean? Some people make, you know, alcohol. You know, but at the end of the day, is it right? You know, like, say you go in the shop and it's one aisle's got alcohol going down it. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's thinking, hang on, that poisons people.
It does. It does.
At the end of the day, or it makes people drunk and misbehave and not behave properly, or not bring up their children properly, and all kinds of things. You know? They don't manage themselves so well when they're drinking. That's the truth of it.
But you know what it is? What it comes back down to though? It's capitalism.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Because supply and demand.
Yeah.
As long as there's a demand for anything,
exactly,
there'll always be someone that supplies it. So even if the supermarkets and the government were to outlaw it tomorrow, you know how many people across this country drink alcohol, and they will find some way, somehow, to get alcohol. There'll be loads of it. It will go back to like the days of Al Capone, in Chicago and shit. Where they used to have, you know, the illegal bootleggers of alcohol, making their own, you know, homemade alcohol and shit.
I mean, it's easy to make alcohol, really, isn't it?
It's just fermented fruit, essentially.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people do it, don't they? You know, at home they make their own stuff.
Homemade wine and shit.
Exactly. You know, they manage their own home brew.
Yeah, their home brew.
Like that. I think like when you are top state, you know, when you drink a lot of alcohol, basically, you're not going to be very good at manager, are you?
No.
You know, you're not really managing yourself in the first place for having a drink and a car away, do you know what I mean? You know, because the next day you've got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you forget about what's happened anyway, you know, and you think like, what's the point of all that? You know, I mean, I think you can have a much better night on water, at least you'll remember it the next day, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can have a good party of a lot of good people.
Yeah, true.
And a good time just drinking water.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I completely agree. But I think also too, like, it was coming back down to what we talked about the other day, and that was discipline.
That's true. Discipline's important.
Because so super important. Because going back to what you were just saying in regards to drink, there are some people out there, like even me, like ourselves. Say for example, we don't drink. But if we were to go, let's say, okay, let's go and have a game of pool and have a couple of pints, we'd probably have 1 or 2 pints. and that'd be it. That's our limit. If you see what I mean, we don't need to drink any more than that. We don't want to be any more intoxicated than that. We don't want to be.
I think we know that we're going to pay for it the next day, don't we?
But even having a couple, you still feel the next day you're not as completely on point as you would normally be because you're not used to having it, and you know, even though you haven't had a lot, you know. But what I was saying is that you can be sensible about doing it as well. There are people out there that can be sensible, but the reality is that a large majority of people are not responsible sometimes when it comes to their discipline and management of themselves. They can't go out and just have a couple and go home. They have to get absolutely plastered, and then when they get home at night, they're a liability to someone else, and probably the whole of the next day, trying to recover, if you see what I mean, you know, a day wasted, you know what I mean? Liver fried, brain fried, body struggling to cope, too much alcohol, you see what I mean? The blood, you essentially kind of poisoned your blood, you know? Like I said, again, your liver, your kidneys, your brain, and then you might even miss a whole day, so you've wasted time, you know? And someone else might have to look after you during that time, depending on how bad you are messed up. Because sometimes people get really messed up, and then their partners have to look after them the next day while they're throwing up and being sick everywhere, and sometimes pissing themselves, excuse my language, you know, urinating on themselves.
That's better.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, because that's never happened to me, but I've heard some stories before. I've had plenty of stories before, you know. I have plenty of mates growing up that used to like to have, you know, a few too many drinks, you know.
I used to drink when I was younger,
yeah.
You know, and I'm glad I knocked on the head a bit, do you know what I mean? I wised up a little bit, do you know what I mean? I thought, nah.
Yeah.
You know, just got a bit, you know, not always been as wise as I am, do you know what I mean? You know, I think so that's a good thing, you know, I mean, I'm wiser today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And older. You know, and I think that's a good thing about life in the kind of way you become a better manager, because that is wisdom, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you get, you know, you know, I'm looking forward to getting a little bit better manager, do you know what I mean? Not myself, you know. You know, it's being responsible for yourself, isn't it? And
yeah.
I think, like you say, discipline is very important.
Super important. Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, like for instance, if you don't want to drink, right, because you know what it does to you, whatever, you've got to be disciplined about that. Do you know what I mean? You know, not go for a good time. You know, it's like when you have, you know, many couples have an argument, say, husband and wife, whatever, they have a bad argument, and then the husband goes out for a drink, you know, to drown his sorrows or whatever, you know, and it just makes the situation twice as worse in a funny way. You know what I mean?
Does, yeah. Because you're not dealing with the problem.
Yeah.
You spent lots of money, potentially, drowning your sorrows, and then you're pissed again, you get home, you know.
And you spent money.
And yeah, that's right, yeah, you spent a lot of money. And the thing is like, sometimes people go home too and they become violent, you know. It happens a lot, not with everyone, you know, not everyone's the same, of course, you can't tear it, you know, but there's a lot of people that become violent, you know, they don't always...
Depending, doesn't it? Depends on the circumstances, you know.
Well, there's a lot of people that, depending on what they drink too, sometimes, for some, even like, okay, I used to know a lot of people in the Caribbean that drank heavily, but they would always kind of know what kind of didn't work for them. So like, I've talked about it very briefly before, but let's use my stepfather at the time, for example. When he would drink the rum, it would make him behave a certain way. If he was to go out and probably have a few beers and maybe something else to drink or whatever, he'd probably be a lot more mellow and a lot more kind of, but whenever he would have the rum, it just brought out, you know, the dark side, you know. Not to go too much into detail because I already have, but yeah, and I knew quite a few other people like that as well, that they would say, oh, I can't drink Hennessy. If I drink Hennessy, that makes me want to fight people.
Yeah, I mean, you know, different drinks do affect you differently.
So, yeah. So I personally, obviously I never really drunk much, so I never was able to really say, you know, I haven't drunk, haven't drunk for a long time, only a couple of times a year, when it's, my birthday, my mate's birthday, or sometimes me and my wife might have a celebration, about something, anniversary or her birthday or whatever, but that's it, 2 or 3 times a year, and when we do, it's just a couple, rest of the time it's no alcohol.
My dad used to drink, quite heavy, He's a bit of an alcoholic,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I didn't really see him much, to be honest with you, do you know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
To me, he wasn't my dad, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was just my father,
Yeah.
you know, the person that gave birth to me.
Well, not gave birth to you, but...
No, not birth to me, but, you know, brought me here.
Yeah, I was gonna say that'd be an interesting one. Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
you're gonna have to tell me about that story, mate. I was gonna say, you're gonna have to enlighten me about that one. Tell me how that went down.
Yeah. I was born on my mum's birthday, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my dad come and visit me, and she said, "Where's my birthday present?" And he goes, "Let us in your arms." You know, it's me. You know.
Yeah.
But unfortunately they separated not long after that. And Dad turned to drink. I think he was drinking
Anyway, yeah.
at a young age anyway, you know. And unfortunately I think you know, I mean, I love my dad, alright, but I just wish he never, you know, I just sometimes wish this alcohol don't exist.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
You know, no, you know, government, alright, yeah? Who are they? They're the management, aren't they? Of the whole country, you know? And I don't think they've been managing the country very well, you know, year after year in a funny way, you know. That's why there's so much crime a little bit, you know, and God knows what, you know, do you know what I mean? You know, and the shutdown, for goodness sake, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's, to me, you know, I find it, you know, I find that more of a terrorist attack, do you know what I mean? You know, like shutting down like that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on who you are, whether that affected you or not, do you know what I mean? You know, I'm sure it wouldn't affect the government.
But that's another. That's again comes back down. That comes back down to management again, doesn't it? And some people would have said it was poor, terrible, disgraceful management, and a lot of those people that were in positions of power at that time that had to make decisions probably would have said that they thought they had good management, that they, you know.
Well, maybe it needed shutting down.
Maybe those people might have, you know. Well, we know the truth about it, but we won't talk about it too much because this is YouTube, of course, and we can't talk about those things anymore. But you know, it's, you know, it comes back down to management again, you know. And I think it's about time that we had some new managers.
Well, you know, like I think, you know, everyone.